we've already solved cancer. It's not true, but in essence, we know pretty much about it. In science, the question is actually more important than the answer. You have to take risks. A failure isn't a loss, it's simply a step, an anticipated step. The difficult you do right away, the impossible takes a little longer.
Such a pleasure to have you with us, Dr. Capecchi.
It's my honor.
Now, some argue, Dr. Capecchi, that the development of gene targeting is really bringing us infinitely closer to the goal of conquering cancer. As a scientist who laid the groundwork for precision biological research through gene targeting, do you share the optimism?
Oh yes. No, I think a scientist has to be completely optimistic because most of the time your experiments don't work, and then you want to be able to go on ahead till they do work. And we're also looking at the future, concentrating on not what is, but what isn't. Then think of how can we get from here to there, and that's the process of science.
And now with genetic engineering, genetic development, and drugs as well, do you think that we now hold the key to unlock the secrets of cancer?
My personal opinion is we've already solved cancer. It's not true. In essence, we know pretty much about it, and now we just have to tweak with it to make it specific for each individual cancer. So that's why I'm pushing neurobiology, because that we know least about, and therefore it's where you're going to make the most progress in the future. It's always basic research first, and then utilization of that research to then become medicine. With cancer, we know quite a bit from research, and now it's all being emphasized, how do you fix this particular cancer versus that particular cancer? And that's all coming, and it'll come very rapidly. I mean, we will never get rid of cancer. Cancer will always be there, but they will always be able to control it.
So your work in gene targeting and the development of knockout mice revolutionized the field of genetics. Looking back at that journey though, what was that key moment that led to this Nobel-winning discovery?
You never know whether an experiment will work or not work. And then all of a sudden it works. You said, wow. I knew that if it worked, it would be very important, but there was a big chance that it may not work. The background is that I submitted a grant to the institution that gives lots of money for research, NIH, in the United States. And they looked at the grant and they said, it's impossible. It meant essentially no money. But I had two other projects in with gene targeting. And so they liked those other two and said, this one's impossible, drop it. And so then you're faced with the situation, what do you do? That was my best idea. And so I was very passionate about it. But if I did try and failed, then that probably would have ended my career as a scientist. So it's a big gamble. In science, you have to take risks. I decided to take that risk. And fortunately, 4 years later, I was able to go back and say, it worked. And they said, terrific, keep going. And this time, they gave you the money.
Most people know you for your scientific achievements, but less is known about your personal journey. For example, your early years was marked by significant challenges, including being separated from your family during World War II.
Yeah.
How did the early experiences shape your drive for success in science?
One thing you learn is patience. People feel sorry for people in the streets, but a child doesn't question the world. It will work with whatever it's given. This is it. And then you work in that framework. I didn't feel sorry for myself. All I was interested in is the next meal. You have to be patient. You'll go 2-3 days without eating anything, and then you succeed, and then you have 2 or 3 more days to figure out where your next meal comes from. And finally, what got me was actually typhoid. Simply because you're drinking the water and the water's contaminated with typhoid, and all the kids will get it eventually. And actually, that's the way my mother found me. She just called hospital after hospital asking, am I there? Is Mario Capecchi there? And she kept for 2 years because, I was changing. I didn't stay in one place. Every few weeks I would travel to another town. And so she had to sort of retrace my steps to finally find me. Up to 9, I'd never read a book, didn't know how to read.
And then you started to have your first exposure to
everything. School, never
consistent
been
education.
to school before, education. I never experienced the community, people that cared about you. All of that started at age 9 a little bit. My mother, she was very kind, almost like a saint, but the war completely destroyed her in a sense of not physically, but mentally. So she never actually recovered. So once we came to the States, she couldn't take care of me. So that's why my uncle and aunts took over and my training. And what they got was an animal, not a human being. Their job was to convert me from an animal to a human being. And
did it take a long time?
It wasn't easy, but they did a very good job. And then my uncle got me interested in science because he was a physicist. And he was very encouraging and patient. At the table, we talked about politics and talked about science. One of the things that my aunt and uncle would always tell me is that the difficult you do right away, the impossible takes a little longer. You can do anything if you stick to it, and you have to be passionate about it.
Is that what kept you going during times of failure or discouragement?
I think so. You have to have something that pushes you on to pursue. I mean, I think if you're pursuing something that's worthwhile, you want to keep going. If you don't have that energy, then you give up. In science, you have to learn from your failures because that's most of the experiments fail. So you design them in such a way that you do learn from the failures and therefore can continue. So a failure isn't a loss, it's simply a step, an anticipated step.
Tell us about your trip to China at this time. What brought you here?
Well, a student of mine is doing really beautiful research, and so I wanted to see how he's doing it and what he's doing. And the resources that he has are fantastic. Not only human resources, he has lots of students, bright students, 60 of them. So it's a big group. They're going in new directions. I mean, we worked with little mice, and then he's now working with pigs, okay? Because pigs' heart, for example, is almost the same size as a human heart.
Did you get a chance to speak to all the 60 students as well
Quite
as your
a bit.
students?
Yeah, quite a few. It was very, very fun. I love students because they are the next generation. They are what is going to take over whatever we're doing. They're eager, they have great capability, and a lot of drive to do what they're doing. And it doesn't matter which country they come from. They're curious. I mean, when you're a child, you ask why? Your parents go nuts with you asking why. But then as soon as they get a little older, then they stop. They should continue to ask why, because things are always changing. In science, the question is actually more important than the answer. Curiosity of asking that question, that is the most important step to actually success.
Which aspect are you focusing now on your scientific work these
now
days?
It's neuropsychiatric disorders, and in particular anxiety, because the level of anxiety in the world is just rising and rising and rising. So we have to get a good handle on it. And not only is it important for anxiety in its own sake, but it actually acts as a hub for all other neuropsychiatric disorders. So major depression is directly linked to anxiety. Bipolar disease is directly linked to anxiety, and so on and so forth. I have a habit of every 10 years, I drop everything and go into a new area just to refresh myself. Less than 10 years ago, I was working in cancer, and now I've switched to neuropsychiatry, and we're working on brain. I switch, and I think that's good for, this thing works if you challenge it. If you don't challenge it, it just sits. It gets tired and lazy. And that's not only true for your mind, but also your body. If you are sedentary, it's going to go downhill. But if you're active, then you'll continue to be active. I enjoy science. I enjoy the process. I enjoy thinking about it. The one question I always ask myself is, why can't I do something? And if I can't do it, I may have to actually develop new technology that will allow me to do that. And that's how gene targeting arose. I wanted to create mutations in a mouse, and the first response was from particularly NIH, was it's impossible. But I saw it as a necessity rather than being impossible. And so I just kept going until it worked, and I was fortunate that it did work. Passion is very important. It gives you the strength, particularly when things aren't going well. I can encourage you to utilize your passion, but I can't give it to you. And that has to come from the inside. One of the things I tell my own students is always listen to your gut. It won't steer you wrong. It's really interested in you doing something better. And so you listen to it and do what it says, which means you are doing those things that you really are passionate about.